Hi guys, how you doing? My name is Crystal and I wanted to read out a piece in the Mail on Saturday, in the newspaper. It's on page 44 and 45 of the Daily Mail on Saturday. As if I don't need cheering up already. It's by Tom Ough. Tom I don't know how you pronounce it, guys. It's Tom Ough. Tom Human ranked the 10 most likely ways for the world to end. You don't need to lie awake fretting about asteroids probably, but another killer virus, lab leak or AI going rogue are terrifyingly more likely than you think, so says an author who's consulted the experts racing against time to prevent doomsday. Humanity's future can look pretty gloomy, from asteroids the size of football stadiums to nuclear war and man-made pandemics. It can seem as if humankind is in constant danger of being wiped out, and in many ways it is. Over the past 3 years, I have interviewed hundreds of experts working to prevent doomsday, from eminent scientists and engineers to eccentric philosophical visionaries and ultra-serious diplomats. Together they form an anti-catastrophe league, a diffused team fighting for the future of our species. Here, using their expertise, I have compiled the top 10 biggest threats to life on Earth. They are listed in order from least to most likely to wipe us out. So what is the biggest threat? And is there a way we can stop it happening? Number 10, asteroids. Our home here on Earth resembles a coconut shy at which the solar system flings rocks with colossal force. It was one of the biggest, an asteroid thought to have been up to 9 miles wide, that led to the extinction of the dinosaurs approximately 66 million years ago, but even smaller asteroids pose a great risk. On June the 30th, 1908, an asteroid roughly 200 feet across exploded over the silent coniferous forests of East Siberia with a force equivalent to 185 Hiroshima bombs. Roughly the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the asteroid created a wasteland the size of London, with square mile after square mile of lifeless burnt trees. And, as recently as 2013, a house-sized asteroid exploded over Chelyabinsk, a Russian city near the Ural Mountains, generating a shockwave which shattered windows across 200 square miles. The good news is that it is possible to deflect the path of these giant rocks, as NASA demonstrated in 2021 when it flew a spacecraft into Dimorphos, a spheroid of compressed rubble about the size of Wembley Stadium, nudging it off its path. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson described the mission as a watershed moment for planetary defence and all of humanity, but it seems he may have been somewhat overstating the risks. The larger asteroids get, the more unlikely their arrival. Asteroids of a diameter of about 0.6 miles are estimated to hit the planet roughly once every 700,000 years. Every 30 million years or so, we can expect bigger planet-threatening asteroids of 3 miles in diameter. 9. Supervolcanoes. Roughly every 100,000 years, Earth is assailed by the eruption of a supervolcano. These giant volcanoes are defined as those with the highest eruptive capability, a rating of 8 out of a possible 8 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index. A supervolcano eruption is 1,000 times more explosive than infamous incidents such as Vesuvius in 79 AD, Krakatoa in 1883, and Mount St. Helens in 1980. The last super eruption was that of Indonesia's Mount Toba some 74,000 years ago. So much sulfur was belched into the atmosphere that the planet cooled by several degrees, devastating plant life and reducing the world's population to around 10,000 people. Humanity today would have no defense against such a volcanic winter. Since eruptions result from a build-up of thermal energy, scientists have suggested that it might be possible to find a way of preventing them by somehow wicking away the heat. One method would be circulating fluid through pipes installed next to them, slowly draining away the heat and generating electricity at competitive prices. But a massive supervolcano like the Yellowstone caldera, part of a volcanic plateau spanning the American states of Idaho, Montana and Wyoming, could take up to 50,000 years to sufficiently cool down using this method. For the moment, we could do little more than monitor the 20 supervolcanoes that exist worldwide, but given that the last eruption was 74,000 years ago, it's likely we have around 26,000 years of respite until the next. 8. Solar storms. Solar storms are seemingly rare, but if a bad one befell us today, many millions of lives will be at risk. They happen when the flows of plasma and magnetism in the sun become tangled, creating dark spots like a scowl on the face of an ancient god. Out of these sunspots erupt solar flares, huge and violent explosions of solar gases, equivalent to the detonation of 10 billion Hiroshimas. These blast electromagnetic radiation into space in such enormous quantities that the charged particles ripple Earth's magnetic field and extend the ethereal skies associated with the northern and southern lights far across the globe. The first recorded instance of a solar storm was on the morning of September the 1st, 1859. Gold miners in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, assuming that the bright sky meant that morning had arrived, began preparing breakfast at 1 a.m. In the late 1850s, the world was beginning to communicate via telegraph, and the solar storm overloaded the wires, inducing currents strong enough to start fires and burn operators. Some machines began spewing gibberish, an unnerving sight, especially under a pulsing red sky. So just imagine the disastrous impact a solar storm would have today, given our intimate dependence on 24/7 electricity for everything from the distribution of drinking water to healthcare and even systems designed to prevent nuclear meltdown. John Kappenman, a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers in the US, has warned that the recovery could plausibly extend into months or perhaps years. The National Grid insists that it has a preparedness strategy which is kept secret, presumably for security reasons. However, the current state of solar science makes it difficult to predict how strong solar storms can be and how often we would expect those worth worrying about. 7. Antibiotic failure. Without effective antibiotics, a scratch could mean death, and even basic surgery would become highly dangerous. But still, we are overprescribing antibiotics clinically and routinely, using them unnecessarily to make factory-farmed animals grow faster. If we continue, antibiotic resistance could result in 10 million deaths annually worldwide by the middle of this century. But there is a potential solution, pioneered by British physicist David Brenner. It relies on the fact that a short wavelength variety of ultraviolet light known as far UVC can kill every kind of microbe, virus and bacteria without harming humans. In theory, one could illuminate a hospital room with far UVC light, and MRSA and the other superbugs would have no defense against it. The science remains a work in progress because we don't fully understand the long-term safety of far UVCs. but its use looks promising. 6. Global warming. Need I spell out all the consequences of climate change? Hotter summers, warmer winters, violent weather, melting ice caps, rising seas, air pollution and mass extinctions, just to name a few. Many people believe that climate change will eradicate humanity entirely. Such was the verdict of 31% of the Americans surveyed by a major pollster in 2022. But worries about climate change eradicating humanity entirely are unrealistic. Even if the current projections significantly underestimate the extent of future warming, much of the planet will remain habitable. It will be a tragedy which will cause suffering, more droughts, more heat waves, higher sea levels, more extinctions, but our species will survive and there is reason for qualified optimism. Renewable energy is helping to push coal and natural gas out of our power grids. In 2009, 74% of British electricity came from fossil fuels. In 2023, it was only a third. Of course, there remains the matter of tens of billions of tons of greenhouse gases that we have already dumped into the atmosphere, but innovators are rising to the challenge. One method for eradicating these is via stratospheric aerosol injection. This mimics the way that the sulfur dioxide launched into the atmosphere by super volcanic eruptions reacts with other gases to form sulfate aerosols, fine particles that reflect the sun's light back out into space and cool the planet. 5. EMP attacks. An electromagnetic pulse, EMP, attack is a terrifying prospect. It would involve a nuclear weapon being detonated high above the Earth's surface, sending gamma rays smashing into air molecules and ejecting electrons. No such attack has yet been made, but one would expose the same vulnerabilities as solar storms, taking out much of the modern technology on which we depend, causing dams to burst, trains to smash, planes to fall out of the sky, trains to smash into each other. Imagine being at the wheel of an electric car when a weapon of this kind is detonated. Although you hear the bang, the EMP wouldn't affect your body, and nor would you feel it as it rushed through you. But your car, which is full of circuitry designed to conduct electricity, would be rendered completely inoperable. No dashboard screen, no power. As it trundles to a stop, you might point it towards the hard shoulder. Everyone else is doing the same. You pull your phone out of your pocket. It's dead too. Your confusion turns to horror as you realize that every piece of electronics within 100 miles might now be inoperable. It's an alarming scenario, but EMPs need not spell doom. Military equipment is already protected against them, and in theory it would be possible to give every other bit of electronic equipment the same hardening, but in practice such protective methods would be both expensive and inconvenient. Famine. Number 4. Supervolcano eruptions, nuclear winter, a major asteroid hitting the Earth. All of these scenarios could lead to a multi-year global winter, causing catastrophic damage to worldwide agriculture and a devastating famine which would kill many millions more people than the terrifying event that originally caused it. So how would we survive when our usual sources of food have vanished? Well, we would have to get creative. A cookbook called Feeding Everyone No Matter What, Managing Food Security After Global Catastrophe, written by American researchers David Denkenberger and Joshua M. Pierce in 2014, describes how in the short term we could survive a global catastrophe by grinding and pressing leaves before thickening the liquid into something vaguely edible. Hungry humans could do the same within a bark or ground sapwood, which is the wood located closest to the bark, and we would probably be able to surf and turf, since marine food chains would be less badly affected than those on land. We would also have plentiful mushrooms, Following the obliteration of the dinosaurs, it may have been mammals who succeeded them as masters of Earth, but in the short term, it was fungi. They thrived on the trees and plants, killed as rock pulverized to dust, filled the skies and dimmed the sun. Still, if all of our usual sources of food are wiped out, mulched up leaves and mushrooms hardly seems a solution. Nuclear war. The precise likelihood of a nuclear war remains difficult to judge. Some experts suggest that there is a 4.5% probability of such a catastrophe by 2045. Others put it at 1%. Let's just go on to number 2. So nuclear war is number 3. Number 2 is lab leaks. Today we have not only identified the microscopic pathogens responsible for diseases, but we can edit their DNA to help eliminate them. You might reassure yourself that the laboratories doing such work maintain impeccable levels of security, but accidental releases happen far more than they should. And the first, they predict in artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Undoubtedly, the biggest danger to humanity today comes from AI. AI catastrophe is most likely to happen as a result of human misuse of the technology. This could mean a dictator gaining control of powerful AI, or an unsafe system getting loose on the internet because it wasn't sufficiently secure. Another more theoretical but serious risk comes from the AI itself going rogue. Already researchers have shown that it can be used for nefarious ends. They did so by testing whether ChatGPT's GPT-4 program could circumvent a CAPTCHA, one of those puzzles where you have to pick out photos of traffic lights, bridges or bicycles from a grid of other images to prove you're not a robot and gain access to a website. But AI found a simple way around this by using TaskRabbit, a site where you can find people to do odd jobs, to hire a real human to do the puzzle for them. When asked by the human why it couldn't complete the capture itself, GPT-4 claimed to be blind. Such capacity for deception makes AI incredibly dangerous. Just imagine how else those lying skills might be put to use. A rogue superintelligence might infiltrate military systems and launch hundreds of nuclear strikes at once. Another scenario, as American computer scientist Eliezer Yudkowsky wrote in 2023, is that it could go far beyond hiring humans to solve capture puzzles and get them to build it a physical laboratory from which to release lethal bacteria. What that looks like is everybody on Earth falling over dead inside the same second, added Mr. Yudkowsky. The UK does now have an AI Security Institute, AISI, which checks new AI models for signs that they might resist human control or be used for harmful purposes, but like its counterparts abroad, it has no hard power. It is not the sheriff of this frontier town, it has no gun, and it relies on the cooperation of the major players. For now, the AISIs have the cooperation, but they might not have it forever. These systems will continue to get bigger, smarter and stranger, and sooner rather than later, these rough beasts could slip beyond our fragile guardrails and seriously endanger us all. And this was adapted from the Anti-Catastrophe League by Tom O. Mudlark, £22.